following presentation is an Delmarva Studios production.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Flat Earth Files. I'm your host, as always, George. Hope everybody's doing well. Here in the Mid-Atlantic region, it's pouring, it's cold, it's windy, it's just nasty. We have chickens here at the homestead, and they're just absolutely miserable. Poor things. But we got a little time before dinner, finished all the chores, so I'm just in the studio here. I thought I'd answer a few emails and throw a little globe numerology at you. It's funny, the globe model with all its numbers and kind of the scientism's nod towards Satan, if you will. But one thing at a time. Again, thanks as always. This is by far the fastest growing podcast I've ever had. We're closing in on 1,000 downloads already, and we've only been going at this for a few weeks. So thanks to all the listeners. Thanks for the emails, which we're about to address. And two things on that. First, the address. It's theflatearthfiles@gmail.com. Again, that's theflatearthfiles@gmail.com. And also one other thing that I should mention, if you wouldn't mind, I'm not going to say people's names, but if you'd like to have your name said on the podcast, just kind of say this is Jim from Phoenix, or even if you don't want your actual first name to be read on the air, just give me a handle like Maverick or Dragon Boy or whatever, Maverick from Philadelphia, whatever. I just like to know whereabouts in the world the listeners are listening. I mean, I can go into Spreaker and look at the stats, but it just makes it a little more personal. So, again, I'm going to address some emails. Not going to say any names. If you'd like your name and location on the podcast, just please include that. So we're going to start with the 3 emails we received over the last 24 hours or so, and then we're going to get into the numerology. Just a quick podcast, and might drop something this weekend. If not, we will certainly be back early next week. And if you do celebrate, Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Thanks for listening. All right, let's get into the emails. I've been out in this mess much of this day, so if I sound a little jacked up, I apologize. First email, very interesting email. Goes on to say, I've been on the fence about flat Earth, but I've always been pulled in to research more about it, which kudos to you. Most people automatically go with the 99%, laugh it off, and continue on their day. So that right there is a tip of the hat to you, my friend. Personally, it's very hard for me to get out of the, I suppose, indoctrinated mindset. Well, sir, and I've said this many times before, we've been a part of the indoctrination 20, 30, 50, 70 years. And it's certainly something that we can't reverse overnight. It takes a long time. Whether you've been awake for a year or 20 years. I think most people will tell you, including myself, you still learn new stuff every day, for sure. And he says his indoctrination has been very strong. It starts off with my grandfather, who was a prison guard at Nuremberg, in which he guarded the Nazis. I am not very clear if he met Werner von Braun, but my grandfather learned German while he was stationed there. Fast forward to the Apollo missions, and my grandfather was part of the crew that built the engines for them. I've been told von Braun would seek out my grandfather when he visited Rocketdyne to talk to him because he was able to speak German. I wish he was still alive today so I could pick his brain. My father also worked at Rocketdyne and has been a part of many black projects and has a plethora of knowledge. His last project he helped on was Artemis 1, which is, obviously the most recent launch. I will most likely pick his thoughts on a lot of this. I know I'll get the common answers from him, but I wonder how scripted he will be. He's told me some stuff while we were relaxing and having a few drinks. I know there's more to what we see. Amen to that. Usually the truth is hidden in plain sight. Just wanted to say thanks for the format of how you are explaining everything. Thank you so much for the email, brother. I really appreciate it. And with these type of things, just like in the military, compartmentalization is a big part of it. Obviously, there were a lot of people involved with the project. And yes, a rocket did launch and leave, right? It went up. But if you watch rocket launches, just go to YouTube. You can watch any SpaceX launch or anything involved with NASA. It will go up, and then it'll start to curve, and it'll flatten off. Now, many people believe, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this or not, because remember, back in the day, most of the launches with NASA were from Cape Canaveral, and they would go up and they would turn east. So many people hypothesize that, let me pull up this here, hold on. All right, so check this out again. I'm not sure if I ever brought this up on this particular program, but go to Google, okay, put in the Bermuda Triangle, enter, click on the link, and look at the map on the right. Okay, it says Bermuda Triangle, Devil's Triangle, and obviously NASA launches from that southern tip down there in Florida, and if you look off to the right, what do you see? The Bermuda Triangle. Now, I think if I remember correctly, I guess I could scroll real quick, but the origins of it started in the 50s with an article published in the Miami Herald by Edward Van Winkle Jones. And again, this is about the time that NASA was spinning up. So just to make a long story short, by the way, it's interesting if you look at that. There was a short article by George Sand covering the loss of several planes and ships, including the loss of Flight 19, which again, 19 is a very Freemasonic number, that 19. How many hijackers were there supposedly on 9/11? 19. And what did we just deal with for the last couple of years? COVID, what? 19. So that to me is a sign that this may have been a story. But anyway, go back to that map, the Bermuda Triangle. Some people believe the story was concocted because they wanted boats and vessels to stay away from this area because this is where the rockets actually land. Because on TV, you see the rocket go up, everybody's clapping, then it kind of starts to turn. So without a doubt, the rocket goes up and away. But a lot of people think that this Bermuda Triangle story, which was conveniently concocted in the 50s, into the 60s, it was very big in the 70s. I remember as a young man hearing the stories, and that's about the time, the Apollo missions had already been going. So that's just something for you to think about, right? That's something that has been talked about by many people. So there you go. It would be interesting to hear what your dad had to say. There was a lot of videos on YouTube breaking down that Artemis launch. Very interesting stuff. I think RV Truth, but he recently had his YouTube channel broken down. I think it's called They Live Truth now. I'm not sure, but indeed, the truth is hidden in plain sight. I want to thank you so much for the email. God bless your grandfather and his service. Just remember, Manly P. Hall, former 33-degree Freemason, once said that when the human race learns to read the language of symbolism, a great veil will fall from the eyes of men. And that's something we'll talk a little later about. So again, thanks for that email. The next email is, hi there. So I'm new to the Flat Earth ideology. So obviously I'm a bit skeptical, but I also definitely think that you're onto something. After listening to your podcast, I understand why they would want to keep it a secret, and also understanding that Lucifer is the god of this world, indeed. And it didn't take much to convince me. A few questions. Okay, so the first question is a good one, and this is one of those I wish it was a video podcast, and maybe I'll make a YouTube channel. I'll be very boring and bland about it because anytime, I'm sure most of you guys know all these truth channels on YouTube, they get pinged very easy. But the first question is, how would time zones, change in seasons, solar and lunar eclipses, and those situations where it stays days or nights for long periods of time, the moon having a crescent and changing tides. Let me answer just a couple of these for you. Time zones is very easy. If you look at a clock, like a grandfather clock, right, or a sundial, that is exactly, if you look at the the hour hand, imagine instead of 1 to 12, it goes 1 to 24. And the hour hand is the sun. So that is how it circles the flat earth. Just like a sun dial or, a grandfather clock that just, instead of 1 to 12, 1 to 24, just follow that hour hand along. And that's exactly how time zones would work with the flat earth. Changing seasons. Okay, so there's, on a globe, you have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And again, instead of a globe, think of it as that picture I put in the show description. I don't know if it was last podcast or the podcast before, explaining what the flat earth looks like. Now, the sun circles the flat earth once a day, but it also moves down and up. So during the winter seasons, it is closer to I had to pause there to pull up my map. Sorry about that. So you're talking like June, you're talking, it's on the equator, but as it gets into the winter months, the sun gets closer. Just click on like a map that has the Tropic of Cancer, the equator, and the Tropic of Capricorn, right? It goes up and down between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn while it rotates every day, obviously very, very slowly. December 21st, the sun is basically right on the Tropic of Capricorn. So that's the warmest day in Australia, South America, South Africa. That's their summer, December 21st. Now, if you look at that same map, look how far away, if the sun is down there on the Tropic of Capricorn, look how far away it is from Asia, Europe, and North America. Now, June 21st, it's on the Tropic of Cancer, which is our, summer's here. It's the closest to the Tropic of Cancer. So we're getting the summertime. You see what I'm saying? It goes around like the clock, but it also slides up and down between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. Okay? And I'm just fact-checking myself. And the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, around December 21st, the sun is directly over the Tropic of Capricorn. And it lies within the boundaries of the constellation Sagittarius. So again, look at the flat Earth map. Look where it would lie on the Tropic of Capricorn, and it's going to be good doing that circle. So it's very far away from us on the flat Earth, okay? And that explains the changing season as well. As the fall goes, the sun gets a little further away from us. It gets colder. The sun's, not around as much. It's colder. The leaves turn. And that's basically how it works. It says most of these events are explained by the moon, sun, and earth on the globe theory being in a certain orientation. But if we're really flat, then how would that be explained? And for the eclipses and things like that, that's more of a video thing. It's very hard to explain on like an audio podcast. What I'll try to do is I'll either in the next 1 or 2 episodes, I'll make sure I don't like to use other people's work like in the show description. But I mean, if it takes them directly to their YouTube channel, maybe they wouldn't mind, or I can just make a short video. Either way, I'll try to get a video to you. Actually, I'll send you an email, but I'd like to share it with the masses. Another topic. If the sun and moon are together within the firmament, why is it so challenging to get to the moon? Well, because the firmament is basically a dome. You can't get through it. And if you remember our discussion about the Operation Fishbowl, they were trying to blow up the firmament to get through it, just like Hillary Clinton said, breaking the glass ceiling. It's inside. We cannot get to it. Imagine, you're in an enclosed building and it's above you. You can't get through the firmament. It's solid. And there's also some interesting videos on YouTube talking about the blue ice, which is the firmament itself. That's something you all should take a moment and try to find on YouTube. He goes on to say, Have we made it there now? No, we never will make it there because, again, it's in the firmament. It's impossible. Is there actually an international space station? That's a good question. You know why? Because I'm a ham radio operator, and supposedly once a day you can talk to them, or once every so often. I don't know if they're in a satelloon or every now and then they rotate it. I will tell you this. A lot of the quote-unquote, when they do the live streams from the ISS, they are done here on Earth, because there are hundreds upon hundreds of videos on YouTube showing these guys have rigs to their hips when they do their little flips. They're busted many times. One guy floating in the background, his rig is showing him being held by a rig as he slides across where you're supposed to believe it's gravity. There's videos of people thinking they're grabbing things like with a green screen. It's just, they've been exposed. So is there something floating in the air? Probably. Is it an international space station with people inside? I don't think so. There's rumors when they built the International Space Station, the first time they docked, like they've never put the pieces together on Earth. So that in itself really is something that I question. And again, remember, NASA is a slush fund for these people, $70 million every single day. And again, compartmentalization. You look at Don, what's that knucklehead's name? Don Pettit, the astronaut, who say we'd go to the moon in a heartbeat, but we lost the technology. There's zero chance that we would lose such an important technology as, according to the history book, what is man's greatest accomplishment? It's going to the moon. It's just absurd. And here's the thing, my friend, if that one thing is a lie, you have to question everything else. You absolutely have to question everything else. I just don't believe in outer space. We're inside a dome. And we'll talk, by the way, that dome's going to come up in another email. It says ignorance is bliss, but I'd rather you blow my mind. I'd love to hear back from you. There you go, my friend. I appreciate your email. And again, maybe at some point we're going to have to start a YouTube channel or some type of video channel somewhere so we can supplement the audio podcast with video, because it's a lot easier to explain some of these things via like a slide presentation, right? All right, let's get to our last email. This last email is very interesting, and it sent me down the rabbit hole, and I came up with a lot of interesting information. It says, when you were talking about Jim Carrey and the moon landing, you mentioned Ed Harris as the producer on The Truman Show. You did not mention that Ed Harris also played John Glenn in the movie The Right Stuff. Just another connection. Good job on the show. Keep it up. And I was like, oh, that's right. You're right. But then you're going to be shocked. All the connections that Ed Harris has. So he was born in 1950. His performances in Apollo 13. Remember, he was in Apollo 13, which was directed by Ron Howard and Tom Hanks. A lot of people in the truth community have a lot of interesting opinions on Tom Hanks, but of course, that Apollo 13 is about the failed, mission where there was this fire on board. Their explosion deprives their spacecraft of its oxygen supply. I mean, this story about Apollo 13 is more fiction than the moon landing itself. Now, a lot of people say that at this point, if you remember, this was April 11th through the 17th, which during that time period is a big nod to Moloch and the evil ones, if you will. But people were growing bored of the whole space thing. So a lot of people say that they did this to get people's attention back to NASA. It was an attention grab. So there you go. Ed Harris, not only The Right Stuff, not only The Truman Show, but Apollo 13. But wait, there's more. What was the other movie? Bear with me for just a second. National Treasure, which is about Freemasonry. It goes that artifact hunter Benjamin Franklin Gates, played by Nicolas Cage. This is National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets. Returns in this adventure sequel. Masonic references are limited mainly to citations of a secret correspondence between Queen Victoria and Confederate General and the daddy of Freemason Albert Pike himself, and a suggestion that French Freemason Frederick Bartholdi incorporated a clue to the treasure in his design of the Statue of Liberty because, quote, Masons built clues into everything. And, of course, Ed Harris was in that movie as well. Now, one more thing that I thought was very interesting, obviously has nothing to do with Flat Earth itself, but you always look for a connection with somebody in the clique. Like, did he go to Yale? Skull and Bones, things like that. And he didn't. He went to Columbia, although an Ivy League school, and University of Oklahoma. But his green flag, red flag, I should say, not green flag. The hell am I thinking? He went to school with a guy. He played varsity football at Columbia University and was a teammate of the future United States Attorney General Eric Holder. And I think you guys know what a bad dude that guy was. Operation Fast and Furious, Contempt of Congress, Operation Choke Point. So I thought it was very interesting that those two had a connection. So there you go. Ed Harris, he played FBI agents in a play. He played all these, Freemasons and things involved with outer space, right? He played astronaut John Glenn in The Right Stuff, on and on and on. Very interesting. Great catch, my friend. That was a very great catch. And thank you again for the email. And if you'd like to have your email read on the show, again, it is theflatearthfiles@gmail.com. Any information you'd like to share with the masses, we will certainly do so here. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the numerology that is incorporated with the heliocentrism and the globe, and its nod to the one who rules Earth, right? We're going to talk about the sacred numbers, and then we're going to get into some very interesting numerology involved with space and scientism. So 3 is the first sacred number. It is considered the perfect number. 3 represents the pagan trinity. It is also represented geometrically in the shape of a triangle, right? And also spiritually as the third eye of Hinduism. Now, occultists will multiply and add 3 to other sacred numbers to create new numbers. And you'll see in a minute, you'll find out why 3 is so important. 33, excuse me. However, they also group 3s into 2s and 3s, and they believe in the principle of intensification. For example, that greater power is achieved when a sacred number is grouped. In this case of 3, greater intensification is achieved when it's shown as 33 or 333. Remember, 333 plus 333 equals? You got it. Occultists have used 333 as the hidden symbol by which they represent the more offensive number 666. And when the details of an event are so arranged as to contain certain sacred occult numbers or numeric combinations, this is literally an occult signature on the event. Mathematically, 666 can be created when 3 pairs of 3s are added. Now let's talk about the next number, 6. Of course, 6 is the next sacred number, representing the number of the soul of man. This shows the omnipotent power of God, as this belief parallels Revelations 13:18, where God assigns 666 to man, the beast. 6 is also believed to be all-sufficient, This parallels Bible teaching, which states that man's great sin is pride in himself. Then the next one is 7. That's considered the next sacred number. Van Buren calls 7 one of the most sacred of all the numbers, the invisible center, the spirit of everything. Since multiplication of 7 creates an even more powerful sacred number, you should not be surprised that 3 times 7, or 21, is considered powerful. So, when Adam Weishaupt formed the Illuminati, he arranged the timing of the event by arranging the numbers in a manner that would equal powerful numbers. He chose May 1st, which is also May Day, which is a very communist day, because May, the 5th month, added to the first day equals 6. Weishaupt chose 1776 because the 4 numbers added up to 21. 1 plus 7 plus 7 plus 6, 21. Further, the number 6 plus 21 equals 27, another number of power, because it is formed by the multiplication of 3 times 9. And again, this date was chosen very carefully by Weishaupt. The same reason that Oklahoma City and Waco happened on April 19th, because of the date and the significance of the Feast of Moloch. 9 is a sacred number because it is the first cube of an odd number. 999 is utilized to represent 666, because if you don't know these people, the Freemasons, they like everything inverted, hence the big trans push. And lastly, we have 2 more actually. 11 is a sacred number because when 11 is multiplied by the perfect number of 3, the number 33 is produced. And this number, 33, is a number of tremendous occult importance. 1933. Remember, in 1933, both Adolf Hitler and Franklin Roosevelt, FDR, came to power. Both of these men were committed to the establishment of a new world order, and their actions impacted humanity greatly. It was also in 1933 the first Humanist Manifesto was issued. Now, do you see how Satan manipulated the world to produce 3 New World Order events in 1933? Lastly, finally, the number 13 is deemed sacred. It was also no accident that Hitler chose the year 1939 to begin World War II, because 39 is formed by the multiplication of 13 times 3. Thus, you can see how human history has been shaped by the occult belief in the power of numbers. And 9/11, of course, 2 big numbers, 9 and 11. It's not a coincidence that September 11th was chosen for that day. Now, we're also going to get into another number, a very powerful number, and it is especially important in Scientology and the globe. All right, so the number of the beast is 666. Now, pull out your calculators and play along this game. 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216. Now, you're going to see that number 33 all over the place. If you go to Google and just put in the number 33 and hit search, you're going to see news items from all over the world. The stock market dropped 33 points. 33 people died. 33 people sick in Beijing, China from COVID. But they also use other numbers, 3,300, 33,000. They like to hide that number in plain sight. And it is coding to communicate with other Illuminati, Freemason, Jesuits around the world. But the Scientology that goes into the flat earth is very interesting. So I want you to remember that number, 2,160, but also the variants of it, right? You'll see numbers like 108, which is half of 216. So let's start with the Earth's polar circumference, according to the Globers in Scientology. The Earth's circumference, the polar circumference, is very near to 21,600 nautical miles. So there's your 216, because the nautical mile was intended to express 1 minute of latitude, which is 21,600 partitions of the polar circumference. So there is your 216. Now let's look at the moon. The moon is 2,160 miles in diameter. There is your 216. Again, 6 times 6 times 6. Then I came across a very interesting story. This story is from NBC News, dated March 4th, 2014, at 7:54 p.m. Eastern Time. Asteroid will zoom within moon's orbit. Look for it online. This is more fear porn. An asteroid is due to come within the orbit of the moon on Wednesday, and you just might be able to watch it zoom past us. Now, this is Wednesday 8 years ago, so don't go looking for it. Listen to the number. It's coming. An asteroid, at least as big as the one that blew up over Russia last year, another hoax, is coming within the orbit of the moon Wednesday. Astronomers say there's no chance it'll hit us, but you just might be able to watch it zoom online. The space rock, known as the 2014 DX-110, is due to make its closest approach about 4 p.m. Eastern Time. At a distance of about, you got it, folks, 216,000 miles. So there is your 216. Now, they also do say that the passing asteroid is thought to be 60 to 140 feet, but they make sure to explain it in meters. 19 to 43 meters. There's your 19. You know, I have a friend in Australia. Her name is Kayla, and she has a coincidence jar. She said she has to empty it out every day because there's so many coincidences. This story is from NASA. It's interesting when you look at their logo. Once you realize that logo was a serpent's tongue, you can never unsee it. This story is called Receding Titan. It was published December 17th, 2004. A day after entering the orbit around Saturn, of course, Saturnalia, Cassini sped silently past Titan, imagining the moon's south polar region. This natural color image represents Cassini's view only about 2 hours after closest approach to the moon. The superimposed coordinate system grid in the accompanying image at right illustrates the geographical regions of the moon that are illuminated and visible, as well as the orientation of Titan. Lines of longitude converge on the south pole above the center of the image. The yellow curve marks the position of the boundary between the day and night on Titan. Now here we go. Images taken through blue, green, and red filters were combined to create the natural color view. These images were obtained using the Cassini spacecraft wide-angle camera on July 2nd, 2004, from a distance of about 347,000 kilometers. Do you want to take a guess how many miles that equals? 216,000 miles. There again is your 216. All of this stuff is science fiction. It's not true. It's just to make you believe that the Big Bang Theory happened and evolution happened. Fishes started swimming up on the beach, and they eventually learned how to breathe, and they became monkeys. And you know, your ancestors are monkeys, and it's just a pure coincidence that you're here. That's not the case at all. This place was created just for us. I believe there's a firmament. We're enclosed, just like any other place. You know, when you were in school and you made the a terrarium, right? There's no such thing as you don't have to worry about any space rock hitting us. By the way, the one Ed Harris things I forgot to mention, he was in Westworld, and if you remember Westworld, it's an enclosed area with a dome over top of it, and Ed Harris was part of that as well. So very interesting. It's funny when they were talking about the camera they used. The image scale is 21 kilometers at 13 miles per pixel, but it's just, again, another coincidence. Let's talk about Earth. This is the big one. Earth has a tilt, an axial tilt on its axis of 23.4 degrees. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you take 23.4 degrees and subtract it from the right angle of 90 degrees, you got it. 66.6. Just a coincidence, though, right? It's just a coincidence that the Earth's axis is 23.4 degrees. And when you subtract it from the right angle of 90, it comes to 666. Every time I say it's a coincidence, we're going to drop a coin in the coincidence jar every time, because that's, again, the fact that it's 23.4 degrees is just a coincidence. There we go. One more in the jar. Let's keep rolling along here. All right, what's half of 216? Because they like to manipulate numbers, 108. Well, Saturn's equatorial diameter is 120,000 and change. Actually, it's 120,066 kilometers. But its globe is kind of flattened, and the polar diameter is only 108,000 kilometers. So there's your 108, which is exactly half of 216. Right? They can't do 216 every time. They can't do 33 every time. They can't do 666 every time. They have to manipulate it and give you the little wink. There you go, another coincidence. Now, let's go to the next one. How fast does the Earth orbit around the sun? 66,600 miles per hour. Again, 66,600 miles per hour. There is your 666. Boy, that jar's getting full already. Let's look at the next one. The diameter of the sun is equal to the diameter of 108 Earths. What is the diameter of the sun? 864,000 miles. Wait a second. 864,000 miles. If I pull out my calculator and I do 864 divided by 12, or let's try that again, 864 divided by 4, I get 216. And by the way, it goes on to say that the space between the Earth and Sun is filled with 108 suns. 108 and 108 is 216. You can't make this stuff up. It's just a coincidence, right? So there you go. A couple more to talk about. Let's skip this one. How many minutes are in 6 days? Remember, we talk, God created everything in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. So if you take how many minutes are in 6 days, there's 8,640. So there's your 864. And of course, 4 times 216. Let me make sure, fact check myself. 216 times 4 equals 864. So there you go. There, just again, another coincidence. Now let's talk a little bit about, we don't forget our coin. The New Jerusalem walls, right? It had a great high wall with 12 gates and with 12 angels in charge of the gates. On the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. There were the 3 gates on each side, 3 on the east, 3 on the south, 3 on the north, and you got it, 3 on the west. Of course, this comes from Revelation, 21 verses 12 and 13. So let's talk about that. You're going to see some very interesting numbers. Because the wall completely surrounds New Jerusalem, including the top and bottom, we can understand why the wall has 12 foundations. There are 12 edges to a cube, edges that surround and hold a cube together. This beautifully shows how the 12 apostles are the foundations upon the walls, and are built and held together. Now, because there are 12 edges to a cube, picturing the 12 foundations, and each edge is 12,000 furlongs long, say that 3 times fast, we have a beautiful picture of the entire church, because 12 foundations or edges multiplied by 12,000 furlongs in length equals 144,000. Thus, the church class of 144,000 will completely surround the city and be a wall of protection for those inside. And of course, that number 144,000 is, kind of talking about the tribulation, right? Now, we're getting to the payoff here in just a minute. The area of one wall of New Jerusalem is 12,000 feet, 12,000 furlongs, or 144 million square furlongs. 144,000 multiplied by 1,000 years is 144 million. A picture of how the church of 144,000 will be a wall of protection for the 1,000 years of the millennial kingdom. Now, here you go. The symbol continues to teach what could only have been known to the creator of the universe when this vision was given. The area of one wall of the cube is 144 million square cubits. So the area of all six sides is 864 million square furlongs. And there's your 864. Consider these words from Jesus. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. The diameter of the sun is 864,000 miles, right? Thus, New Jerusalem's walls, with an area of 864 million square furlongs, is the same of the sun's supposed diameter of 864,000 miles, multiplied by thousands of years. So, there you go there. I think I had one more. I think I already covered all the flat earths. Yep, I covered all of that. I think that's a good run there. And I'm sure there's a lot more numerology that if we took the time to dig in, that we could get into it. But again, yeah, the numbers, the numerology in the globe and heliocentrism are very much, intertwined with Satan's numbers. And again, 6 times 6 times 6. And if you want to get more into numerology and gematria, I could recommend Zach Hubbard explains it very well, but he's not. I guess the easiest way to say, at least as far as I haven't watched him in a while. He's not very much, creator based, if you know what I mean. He is not super friendly towards Christians. Maybe he's changed his ways. I don't know, but he does a great job of explaining gematria. So, and the reason I say this is because Manly P. Hall's, once you understand the numbers and the symbols, especially in a movie like Contagion, and once you're aware of these things, when you go back and watch TV shows and movies, you can see the symbology and how they brainwash people. And again, I would love to. I could break down that movie Contagion in video. It would take like 6 hours to do it because even at certain times in the movie, like at 1:33, that something is on the screen. And again, every movie and many TV shows, there's globes just randomly on the set, on a desk. All of it. Even when you're a baby. What is like almost every baby have hanging above their crib? They have the little planetary solar systems spinning around above their crib. So it's very much like Santa Claus. The two things that are ingrained in your mind as a child is Santa Claus and that you are on a ball spinning, at 1,000 miles an hour, going around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, and the whole universe is we're just flying through the universe at X many miles per hour. This is all to get you away from God. And again, I try to do my best on an audio podcast to describe these things. And my apologies if I didn't kind of convey them the way that I should have or I could have. Again, I'll sit down and I'll decide maybe I'll do a supplemental YouTube channel. And because the worst thing is, and again, on my other podcast, I've had YouTube channels. There's nothing worse than putting a lot of hours and hours of work into a video and you put it up. And then, 24, 48 hours later, or in one instance, like 5 minutes later, you get an email saying that you got a strike and it's been taken down. That's very deflating. I mean, even BitChute and Rumble, I've seen these things taken down. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll give it a try on YouTube, and if we get a ding, we'll look for an alternative platform to do it on, because there are some things you truly need video for. But podcasts, the reason why I love doing these, they're very, very, I've never really had an issue with censorship. So, and everybody listens to podcasts, but we'll see. I'd love to hear from you guys. Again, it is theflatearthfiles@gmail.com. Again, it's theflatearthfiles@gmail.com. This actually went a lot longer than I thought it was going to go. I better head out. We're going to have dinner here in a moment. Merry Christmas to you all, and I look forward to your emails. Thank you for all your support. You guys are amazing. Have a Merry Christmas. God bless you guys. And until next time, you guys, keep your head on a swivel. God bless you, and we'll see you.
Here we are, a cold December night, snowflakes fall, wonderful, magical. It's that time when everybody smiles, eyes are shining bright. I still remember how I used to feel. Look at us now, walking around in the snow. We do it in a very Christmas way. Soon there will be sleigh bells and Santa Claus. It's the number one most magical time of the year. Mistletoe hanging everywhere, waiting to declare that love is here in the air. We can stroll side by side all night. I'll hold your hand so tight, and always remember the way that we feel. Look at us now, walking around in the snow. We do it in a very Christmas way. Soon there will be sleigh bells and Santa Claus. It's the number one most magical time of the year. Look at us now, walking around in the snow. We do it in a very Christmas way. Soon there will be sleigh bells and Santa Claus. It's the number one most magical, the number one most magical time of the year.
You're listening to the Fact Hunter Radio Network.
Just the facts, ma'am.